Hoodwood. I am your host, KJ the Black Bandit. You have to excuse the formal dress. I had some personal business I came to. No, I was not in court, just so that you know. Let's start with this week's first topic, Notre Dame, Alabama. Now, those who know me know what I do, know who my rooting interests are, know that I despise, detest, loathe Notre Dame. Maybe it was because they're holier than thou attitude. Maybe it's because they've always thought they were so righteous. Maybe it's because they don't have any names on the back of their jerseys. Maybe it's because their coach, Brian Kelly, used to coach in my alma mater, the University of Cincinnati. I don't know. Either way, I don't like Notre Dame. Can't stand them. Don't like they're on NBC all the time. I just don't like them. It's my right as a sports fan. But they are undefeated. You have to give them the props for that, even though I do maintain that they had a cookie schedule, that the teams that they beat were less than worthy. The teams that they faced, that they struggled to beat, Pittsburgh, Stanford, Boston College, all were weak teams that if they were the great team that people said they were, they would have beaten them handily, but they didn't. But they are 12-0. Although they beat USC, who had a freshman quarterback. Although they beat Pittsburgh with some questionable calls. Although they beat Stanford with a goal line stand. I say in quotes because it doesn't seem like that they really made that stand. And that they also played, count them, 9 games in South Bend or in the South Bend area. One of the games when they crushed Miami, Florida was in Chicago. If you know anything about geography, you know Chicago is just a post pattern from South Bend, Indiana. But Notre Dame has went undefeated and are pretty much the de facto team to make the BCS title game. Now, the question is who's going to play them. Most people think it's going to be either Alabama or Georgia, with most people leaning heavily on the Crimson Tide to take the SEC title away from defeating Georgia in the SEC title game this Saturday in Atlanta. My feeling is, and I'm hoping and praying, that I'm not a very big Bama fan. I'm not a big Nick Saban fan. I think he's a Bill Belichick wannabe. But I do think that the Crimson Tide are the best team in the nation, aside from their one loss to Texas A&M and Johnny Manziel, or Johnny Football as he's known, and I'll detail a few thoughts about him in a little bit. But I do think that Alabama is the best team in the country. I think the SEC is the best football conference in the country. Now, this is hard for me to say, considering that I live in Big Ten country and was weaned on the exploits of the Big Ten, Ohio State, Michigan, Wisconsin, those strong, power-driven teams that in my youth were the dominant teams in the country. But the power has shifted to the SEC, and has been that way for a while. The teams that play in the SEC are faster, stronger, play a more dominant pro-style game. A team like Notre Dame, with its history, its tradition, as it likes to say, is not equipped to handle playing a speed SEC team. Ask Ohio State. Ask Michigan. Ask my alma mater UC. When they played SEC teams, the power SEC teams, I'm not talking about when Cincinnati played Vanderbilt in the Liberty Bowl last winter. I'm talking about the elite SEC teams. What happened? They were crushed badly. Ohio State ran the opening kickoff back for a touchdown and only scored 7 points the rest of the game. Michigan got shut out by Alabama on Labor Day weekend. Notre Dame is more of an SEC team, more of a Big Ten team, more than an SEC team. And that in itself will get them beat handily. More so by Alabama than Georgia, who I think Georgia may wear them down, but Bama will beat them pillar to post. Book that. People will say you're wrong, you hate your blind hatred of Notre Dame. It puts you in a position where you don't like that team, but when you look at the facts, when you look at the team, when you look at the way they're built, Bama's going to crush them. Georgia will spank them. In the SEC, I can count five teams in the SEC that will or could beat Notre Dame. Moving along, staying on the vein of college football, let's discuss the Heisman, who I think should win it. Now, most of the people are looking at one of three candidates. Braxton Miller of the probation-addled Ohio State University, who finished an unbeaten season last Saturday by beating their arch-rival Michigan, and completed the 12-0 season, but since they're on probation, are ineligible for the Big Ten title, and unable to play in a BCS bowl game, which they would have likely done given their spotless record, even though they had a few cookies on their schedule themselves, but they completed an unbeaten league season and won some tough road games as well. Yeah, like I said, you have Braxton Miller, you have Johnny Manziel, the freshman phenom quarterback of Texas A&M, whose claim to fame is the man who went into Tuscaloosa and knocked off the defending national champion Alabama Crimson Tide. But the knock against him is he is a freshman. Freshmen do not win Heisman's. And then you have Manti Te'o, the all-everything linebacker for Notre Dame, cutting him over Ray Lewis. Te'o is a defensive force. His skills are not to be denied. His impact on the game, unquestioned. He is a linebacker that is cut in the mold of Ray Lewis, Mike Singletary, Lawrence Taylor, you can claim, and Brian Urlacher. You can claim the natural linebacker lineage going that far. Te'o is a defensive player. Defensive players rarely win Heisman's. They have to be game changers, like a Charlie Woodson was with Michigan in 1997, where he was a shutdown corner, a kickoff return, a punt return. He even played offense occasionally. Manti Te'o, though a dominant force, is not someone that you can legitimately say is a Heisman winner. You have those three players who are the top candidates for the Heisman. My feeling is I think Braxton Miller should win. He has been undeniably the best player in the country. And as much as I like Johnny Manziel, whose Johnny Football moniker has been a craze in a lot of football circles, I don't think he's ready to win the Heisman. Could he win 2 Heisman? Possibly. Could he win 3 Heismans? I'm not going to give him the Rick Meyer moniker and say, yeah, he could win 3 Heismans like the late Beano Cook said once, that Rick Meyer could win 3 Heismans. I'm not going to put that on Johnny Manziel. I think he can win a Heisman. He may win one in his sophomore, junior season. But I think enough Heisman voters will be leery of giving a Heisman trophy to someone that young and that we know absolutely nothing about, because Texas A&M do not allow freshmen to speak to the press at all. So the first time you hear Johnny Manziel speak, it may be when he's accepting the Heisman trophy. And so it goes. Finally, let's talk about the NFL. This parody going on. Is parody a bad word? The late Pete Rozelle looked for parody. He wanted parody. He wanted as many teams to be competitive in the playoff. This year you have in the AFC, you have the Texans who are 10-1. The Broncos are 8-3, as are the Ravens and the Patriots. All those are 8-3 teams, and all of them are basically in control of their division. And the wild card, the surprising Colts are 7-4, and the Steelers and Bengals are tied at 6-5. Steelers have the tiebreaker edge, as do their Sunday night victory over the Bengals about weeks ago. But you have the elite teams, Texans, Patriots, Ravens, Broncos, and then you have a couple of AFC teams and Colts, Steelers, and Bengals who are just kind of there, kind of cameo roles. I don't think that those latter three teams are anywhere close to being in that elite category. Now you have in the NFC, you have the Falcons who are 10-1, but many people question if they are truly a dominant team. Me personally, I think they're a good enough team to make the playoffs, get a little deep in the playoffs, but I don't think they're strong enough to make a Super Bowl run. And you have in the NFC West the San Francisco 49ers at a 2-1, strong victory in New Orleans over the Saints. They have quarterback controversies. Colin Kaepernick getting the start this week. Many people wondered, should Alex Smith have lost that job due to an injury? So there are questions out west in the Bay. In the East, the Giants managed to shock everybody by slamming the North Division leading Packers and really hammering them 38-10. The Giants are 6-5. I was just saying correctly, they're 7-4, and they're leading the NFC East with a much improved Redskins team and Cowboys lurking there, 6-5 and 5-6 respectively. In the NFC North, the Bears are slumping badly, even though they did bounce back strongly to whip my Vikings 28-10 in week 12, and they hold a one-game edge on their nearest pursuers there in the wild card standings. Is this parity? Is this the dream that Pete Rozelle campaigned for over and over again? I'm not sure. I really couldn't say. Rozelle wanted teams to be even. He wanted all the NFL cities to be rooting for their hometown team deep into the season. I mean, you have hopeless cases like Jacksonville and Kansas City who are light years out of the playoff race, and they're not going to be talking about any kind of playoffs. But by and large, there are many of the 32 NFL cities talking about NFL playoffs. Now, you have some teams like Miami, Buffalo, Arizona, St. Louis. They're frauds. They're charlatans. They're not deserving. But then you have teams like Seattle, Tampa Bay. Those are teams that are legitimately hanging around the fringes and could make a deep playoff run. Everybody now knows there are wildcard teams that can make the playoffs and make a deep Super Bowl run. Witness the New York Giants, who, as a 9-17, made the playoffs, made a deep run, and won the Super Bowl. It can happen. Wildcard teams can win Super Bowls. It's not as a rarity as it was 20 or 30 years ago when a wildcard team winning the Super Bowl, just getting the Super Bowl, was considered dead meat. Now, a wildcard team properly rolling can win 2 or 3 games, get to the Super Bowl, and win it. It's been shown, and it has been. Get going. I wanted to throw in one little bit of spot about the passing of Marvin Miller, the MLB Players Association, the first director that revolutionized the game as you and I watch it. And you say, a person like that, what does a union guy have to do with baseball? Well, you consider that when he started in 1966, the minimum wage of baseball players was $10,000. It's now over $3 million. You consider that baseball's growth has been exponentially tied to the transitions of players, going from one venue to another, being able to bargain for their services through arbitration, and then being able to move free agents. I mean, many people say the $200 million player has ruined the game, but I don't see anything wrong with it. I saw ratings as high as ever. I saw the excitement in the playoffs this year, even though Cincinnati blew a 2-0 lead, but they blew it to the defending world champs. But you see excitement in every city. You see players that are playing hard. You see mega contracts, but you see a Prince Fielder getting a $200 million contract, but leading his team to the World Series. You see a Joey Votto getting $200 some odd million, leading his team to the playoffs. That is all directly tied to Marvin Miller, who brought the players union out of dark ages, showed them what they could do, helped them organize, helped them become better developed, and became a labor force. Now people say, well, Miller ruined the game, there were strikes and everything, but Major League Baseball has had 17 years of labor peace. They've had no trouble. They've had a couple of negotiations since then with the contract renewals have come and gone without a peep. You've not seen Major League Baseball in the news. There's been happiness, there's been harmony, and Marvin Miller goes to his great reward as the forerunner, the forefather of that. And I think him not being in the Hall of Fame is a travesty. He passed away at 95 and fell one vote shy a couple of years ago of making the Hall of Fame. And I think that this injustice should be done. You can catch Musings from the Hoodwood every week on YouTube, usually Wednesdays and Thursdays, depending on how soon I can get to post it. And I won't be as formal dressed this time, but you can catch it every Wednesday, and also catch my column on Gap Sports, also called Musings from the Hoodwood, every week. And this has been a 551 film production in association with Black Bandit Productions Enterprises. I'll see you next week.